Hello everyone! Emergency exits, lifeboats, warning systems. These things may seem completely normal today. These are 10 disasters that changed how the modern world protects us. Part 1. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. On March 25, 1911, a fire started inside the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory in New York. The upper floors were filled with workers and flammable fabric. The flames spread quickly. People rushed toward the exits, but some doors were locked to prevent theft and unauthorized breaks. The fire escape collapsed under their weight. Others jumped from windows because there was nowhere else to go. In total, 146 people died, most of them young immigrant women. Public anger led New York to pass dozens of new labor and safety laws. Factories faced stronger inspections. Fire alarms, sprinklers, accessible exits, and safer working conditions became much harder to ignore. Part 2. The Titanic. The Titanic was promoted as one of the safest and most advanced ships ever built. On April 14, 1912, it struck an iceberg during its first voyage across the Atlantic. Water flooded several compartments, pulling the ship lower and lower. There were not enough lifeboats for everyone. Some boats were launched, partly empty because passengers and crew had not practiced a proper evacuation. More than 1,500 people died. The disaster produced major changes in maritime safety. Ships had to carry enough lifeboat space for everyone aboard. Emergency drills became essential. Radio watches were expanded, and the International Ice Patrol began monitoring icebergs in the North Atlantic. Part 3. The Hindenburg. On May 6, 1937, the German airship Hindenburg arrived in New Jersey after crossing the Atlantic. It was enormous. Passengers traveled in dining rooms and private cabins high above the ocean. But as the airship prepared to land, a fire suddenly appeared near its rear section. The hydrogen-filled craft was consumed in less than a minute. 35 people aboard and 1 worker on the ground died. News cameras recorded the disaster, while a radio reporter's emotional description reached millions. Passenger airships had already faced technical and economic problems. The Hindenburg destroyed what remained of public confidence. Long-distance travel moved toward faster, safer airplanes. Part 4. The Great Smog of London. In December 1952, cold weather settled over London. Residents burned large amounts of coal to heat their homes. Smoke from chimneys, factories, and power stations became trapped beneath a layer of cold air. A thick yellow-black smog covered the city for several days. People could barely see across the street. Cars stopped. Public transport struggled. Hospitals filled with patients who could not breathe. Thousands died during the disaster and in the following weeks. The event proved that air pollution was not simply dirty or unpleasant. It could kill on a massive scale. Britain responded with the Clean Air Act of 1956, restricting smoke emissions and encouraging cleaner fuels. Part 5. The Tenerife Airport. On March 27, 1977, 2 Boeing 747 aircraft were moving through thick fog at Tenerife's Los Rodeos Airport. The taxiway was blocked, forcing both planes to use the same runway. The KLM captain believed he had permission to take off. The Pan Am aircraft was still ahead and hidden by the fog. Seconds later, the 2 planes collided. 583 people died. It remains the deadliest accident in aviation history. After Tenerife, aviation authorities demanded clearer and more standardized radio language. The word takeoff became restricted to actual clearance. Crew resource management also expanded, teaching junior crew members to question a captain when they believed something was wrong. Part 6. The Hyatt Regency collapse. On July 17, 1981, hundreds of people gathered for a dance inside the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Kansas City. Several suspended walkways hung above the crowded lobby. Suddenly, 2 of them collapsed. Concrete, glass, and steel crashed onto the people below. 114 people died, and more than 200 were injured. Investigators discovered that a change made during construction had doubled the load placed on critical connections. The new design had been approved without proper calculations. The disaster became one of the most important engineering failures ever studied. It strengthened professional accountability and showed why every design change must be carefully calculated, documented, and independently reviewed. Part 7. The Bhopal gas. Shortly after midnight on December 3, 1984, toxic methyl isocyanate gas escaped from a pesticide factory in Bhopal, India. A poisonous cloud drifted into densely populated neighborhoods while families slept. People woke with burning eyes and lungs. Thousands died, and hundreds of thousands were exposed. Many survivors suffered long-term health problems. Important safety systems at the factory were unavailable, inadequate, or poorly maintained. Nearby residents had little information about the chemicals stored there and no effective emergency plan. Bhopal pushed governments to strengthen chemical safety laws, emergency planning, factory inspections, and the public's right to know about dangerous substances stored near their homes. Part 8. The Challenger. On January 28, 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger launched from Florida in unusually cold weather. Families and students watched live because teacher Krista McAuliffe was among the crew. Just 73 seconds after launch, the shuttle broke apart. All 7 astronauts died. Engineers had warned that rubber O-ring seals in the rocket boosters might not work properly at low temperatures. Their concerns were discussed, but the launch continued. The investigation exposed technical weaknesses and serious failures inside NASA's management culture. The boosters were redesigned. Safety oversight was strengthened. The disaster showed that collecting expert warnings is useless when an organization pressures people to ignore them. Part 9. The Chernobyl. During the night of April 26, 1986, workers at the Chernobyl nuclear plant conducted a safety test on Reactor 4. A combination of reactor design flaws and operator actions made the reactor unstable. 2 explosions destroyed the building and exposed the core. Firefighters arrived without understanding the radiation danger. Radioactive material spread across Ukraine, Belarus, Russia, and much of Europe. Soviet authorities initially tried to hide the scale of the accident. After Chernobyl, reactor designs and emergency procedures were reviewed. New international conventions required countries to report nuclear accidents quickly and created a framework for international assistance during radiological emergencies. Part 10. The Fukushima. On March 11, 2011, one of the strongest earthquakes ever recorded struck Japan. The reactors at Fukushima Daiichi automatically shut down. Then a massive tsunami reached the coast. Water flooded electrical equipment and disabled backup generators. Without power, cooling systems failed. Fuel melted inside 3 reactor cores, hydrogen explosions damaged buildings, and nearby communities were evacuated. The disaster showed that a nuclear plant could survive the expected emergency, but still fail during a larger one. Countries began stress testing reactors against extreme natural events. Japan created a more independent nuclear regulator, while plants around the world improved flood protection, emergency power, and backup cooling systems.